The climate crisis is a code red for humanity.
Today, scientists, global leaders, and many CEOs agree on the need to move away from fossil fuels to prevent the worst climate outcomes.
The scientific consensus is clear. The world today is confronted with an urgent carbon crisis.
The science is so clear, right? 80% of global heating is caused by burning fossil fuels. We have to stop that.
But on the United States Gulf Coast, one type of fossil fuel infrastructure is expanding at a rapid rate: liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which is another term for the fossil fuel methane. James Hyatt is a resident of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and a climate activist who's watched LNG expansion transform his world.
There's no going back. There's no replacing what is here after it's been tore up. It feels like being surrounded and attacked by something from elsewhere.
In the last 5 years, the U.S. has dramatically increased LNG exports. Last year, the U.S., for the first time ever, was the largest exporter of LNG in the world. If the industry's plans progress, there will soon be more than 24 LNG terminals operating in the U.S. in the coming decades. This includes 7 export terminals operating today, plus 5 facilities currently being built or expanded, and nearly 24 more in planning stages, the majority of which would be along the Gulf Coast, including several around Calcasieu Lake, which sits just 10 miles south of Hyatt's home in Lake Charles.
Yeah, we're here. We're at Calcasieu Point. It's a park, a boat launch at the mouth of the Intercoastal, where the Intercoastal crosses the Calcasieu River. It's the only place I know of in Calcasieu Parish where you can come, you can watch the sunset over the rivers and the trees and not have to watch it set over a bunch of smokestacks and distillation towers and infrastructure of industry. That's the state bird, Louisiana, pterodactyl. We're in the middle of an industrial build out here. There's 4 massive facilities that are already permitted and just waiting to get built. If all of the facilities are built that are permitted, what could happen is this could be like standing in the middle of a parking lot, a concrete jungle with massive tanks all over the place. It's smoke and fire everywhere.
That fire comes from flaring, the practice of burning off natural gas as part of the overall process of bringing it to market. Today's expansion of LNG export terminals has been fueled by the fracking boom of the mid-2000s, which left the United States with a surplus of methane.
Most of the natural gas that comes from fracking within the U.S. can be distributed through a network of pipelines across the country.
But pipes only go so far. To sell it overseas, fracked methane is converted to liquid, which is easier to store and transport.
And that's because cooling natural gas decreases its volume by 600 times, so you can really pack in a lot of LNG onto those ships.
The Center for LNG, which represents 5 major U.S. LNG companies, states on its website that methane has, quote, played a significant role in reducing CO2 emissions from the U.S. power sector. But methane is a greenhouse gas that's 80 times more potent than CO2 over a 20-year period.
The industry wants to focus on natural gas as a clean fuel. However, there is deception in the way that's being presented. Instead of looking at perhaps only the very end where LNG is burned, if you think about the entire supply chain of fracking, methane loss through flaring, methane leaks throughout pipeline transportation, and put this all together, we are really looking at a climate warming methane gas, and we really have no carbon budget to be engaging in this infrastructure at this point in our climate crisis.
According to data compiled by the World Bank, the U.S. has flared an average of about 10 billion cubic meters of methane each year over the last decade. That amounts to the equivalent emissions of roughly 6.5 million cars per year. The Center for LNG also states on its website that its members are committed to making investments in processes and technologies to address and improve methane emissions management. But a UN assessment on methane called the expansion of methane infrastructure and usage incompatible with limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, which scientists say is the threshold for far more severe climate change impacts. Some are already seeing impacts of the climate crisis in their own backyard. Repeated hurricanes have devastated southwest Louisiana, where Hyatt lives.
When I grew up here, we had one hurricane scare. And then in 2005, out of nowhere, Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. Katrina and Rita were the same year. Rita, nobody talks about. That devastated this part. And in the last, 4 or 5 years, it seems like every single year, one storm just wallops someplace awful. This word resilient comes up a lot, and the people of Louisiana are nothing if not resilient, but at some point you get tired, and you don't want to have to be resilient to live.
LNG facilities also emit air pollutants, such as particulate matter and volatile organic compounds that are linked to conditions like asthma, heart disease, and cancer.
LNG, natural gas, or fracked gas impacts health right from the time you're in your mother's womb all the way to the end of life. The majority of the LNG terminals that are planned for construction are in communities that already have a high level of air toxics and air pollution. So the entire supply chain of methane gas is a public health risk, and it impacts communities of color and low-income communities disproportionately.
These are things that are like, it's not some statistic in a book. Each statistic in the book is a person, but it's different when you know these people. It's almost as if they are the sacrifice.
The Center for LNG says it advocates for rules and policies that protect the environment while allowing consumers continued access to LNG and its environmental and economic benefits.
If we continue on this path, we are all in peril. There's absolutely no reason why we should continue down this for the profit of so few.
Hyatt's one of a growing number of activists who are speaking out against the expansion of LNG.
This is where we had our march on the water, had a boat parade. It was the second year they did this, basically a trade show for oil and gas and for liquefied natural gas. And they kept calling us the ground zero of LNG. We brought people up from across the coast to tell these directors that enough is enough. We don't need any more of these facilities in our communities. And the shrimpers, oystermen from Cameron Parish came up with their boats. I don't know if we stopped anything, but we got to be together. And solidarity is so important because sometimes you feel like you're alone and you might be fighting this battle against this behemoth by yourself. And the truth is you're not alone. There's people all over who are being marginalized by these huge corporations.